Hi guys, so I wanted to do a quick video about the research project since you guys have had questions and we haven't had time yet to cover it in class and your instructor is a little forgetful. So the purpose of this, and we've kind of gotten into this a little bit in class, is looking at the way people report their statistics. And we're really getting almost to the point in lecture to talk about practical and statistical significance. So that'll be covered a lot more in chapter 8. So once you get there, this project I think will make a little more sense. And I've moved the due date back till after we've covered that chapter. So you'll have a little bit more information on what's going on. So what the first thing we're going to do is just find some articles. So pick a topic that you're interested in. And they can be pretty different in their methods or how they measured variables, but it should all cover the same topic. And we're going to search for some peer-reviewed articles in those fields, and it has to have a participant section. So if you're on campus, what you can actually do is go to Google Scholar. So I'm going to go to scholar.google.com. And this will allow me to search for some articles on a topic that I'm interested in. So I'm going to do judgments of learning, because that's one of the areas I'm do some research in. And I'm going to pick the top 5 articles here. So if I'm logged in on campus, you'll often see if we have access to that journal. If you have trouble finding an article that you're really interested in, let me know and I'll help you get to it. But we should have access here to Psych Science with my very slow internet. I don't know what is happening here. But here's the article itself. So I click to open it. And I'd be looking for some statistics in this article. So this is one of the very famous judgments of learning articles about how people are really bad at knowing how well they're going to do on a test. And so I'm going to come down and I see you have subjects and tasks. So here's the method of what they're doing. And then really I'm interested in looking for the results. Okay, so they give me the mean numbers here, the mean percent correct recall, and that's a standard error. And then the mean percent recall for this other group, and its standard error. I'm really looking for some sort of set of numbers and a p-value. So it gives me here these are gamma correlations, but you'll usually see like R or T or F, and that's what I'm looking for here. So I see this p-value here. And that's really what I am looking for to work on this project. And so what you're supposed to do is once you pull these statistics, you're looking for things that you're going to recognize by the end of the year. So ANOVA, regression, t-test, correlation, and chi-square. And I'm going to take those statistics and put them into this table. So each article might have several statistics, and so each one should get its own row. If a paper has multiple experiments, like experiment 1, experiment 2, just use the first one. So here's an example for correlations on what that would look like. I found the correlation, but it only gave me the p-value. Okay. I might see T or an F test. So I got to give you the examples of what to look for. And then each statistic listed should have a couple of important numbers. So I'm looking for some sort of statistic. Here I found R. In this particular article, it's listed as G. Yours shouldn't be that confusing. It's just specific to the field I'm interested in and some sort of p-value. So I would list the name of the article. And here I'd say it's Nelson and Dunlosky. And you can list the title of the article too if you want. So what type of test did they run? They ran a correlation. The statistic reported in this case is G, and it's 0.90, and then there's another G, 0.38. And really here I'm looking for you to tell me what kind of statistic it is. It's a correlation test. And then they listed P less than 0.001, right? And that's here. Does it have all of the important parts? Okay, so what does that mean? That means that I'm looking for, each statistic should report the following. So some statistics, so I have R here, which is G in this case. Some type of degrees of freedom, so no DF. Okay. Or you can just write no DF here if you want. So it's missing the degrees of freedom, which are normally in parentheses next to the statistic. And then some sort of p-value. So it has the p-value, it just doesn't have the DF. Is it statistically significant? So is the p-value less than 0.05? And this is something we're going to get to in chapter 7. So by the time that this project is, the first 2 articles are due, you'll have seen this already. And so I would say yes, because p less than 0.001 is less than 0.05. Is there some sort of effect size? And the effect sizes that I could potentially find are listed out here as D, G, or R, R squared, omega squared, or eta squared. My computer ate those Greek symbols. Chi squared might have a V next to it. Correlations tend to count as both. So I would say yes. And then for size of the effect, for right now, you'll just use this little table to help you figure this out. So this is stuff we'll cover throughout the year. But for R here, so 0.9 and 0.38, those are medium and large. So I would say the 0.90 is large, the 0.38 is medium. That's all you have to do. So then we would go through and look, see if we had any more statistics in here. There's a giant chart thing here. And so that's a footnote, so I'm going to kind of ignore that thing. I'll scroll down here, keep looking for some other statistics. Okay, so far I don't see a whole lot. They're just kind of yapping, yep. And so that's all these statistics they have in this article. Okay. Now, if I was interested in this particular footnote, it actually has some more statistics in it. So they repeat those correlations here. And then if I keep scrolling, I actually find some t-test values here. So I could list that one as well. So it would be the same article, Nelson and Dunlosky. Okay. This time it's a t-test. Okay. So they reported T of 19. Silly auto caps thing here. It's 2.78. And then they said P less than 0.05. Okay. So does it have all the important parts? Well, it has some statistic. It has a T, it has a degrees of freedom, and it has a p-value. It doesn't have the exact p-value, which is a little frustrating because it should say what p actually is, like p equals 0.01, but it does have all the requisite parts. Is that statistically significant? Yes. P is less than 0.05. Does it have an effect size? No. And so when that happens, you just write NA out here because it doesn't have one associated with it, so I couldn't tell you what size it was. Okay. So you can also look through this example here of a different Judgments of Learning article. And when it doesn't copy poorly, what I see is that I found repeated measures ANOVA, right? And this GP2 thing is eta squared when it copies correctly from the article. Then they did a 2x4 ANOVA, and then they reported some other numbers here. So I listed all of those out in this example table. Repeated measures ANOVA. I included all the F statistics. So for F, the answer is yes. They have DF1, DF2, F, and P. They include the effect size. Here's the effect size, and then there's the large effect. Here, let me hit enter here. For this second one, they just said F is less than 1, so there's no degrees of freedom or an F value or P, so they have nothing in this one. Same thing here. So no degrees of freedom F or P. And then this last one, they have all of them. So degrees of freedom 1, 2, F value, effect size, and P. So it has all of them. And now this table I know will just be a little difficult when we haven't talked about ANOVAs or Fs. So please feel free to ask for help on your first article or any of the articles really, and I will help you decipher kind of what's going on. But the whole point of this paper is to think about how we report statistics And you'll see that there will be a wide variety of reporting. So sometimes they'll just give you p-values. And that's okay. You can use that article and you would just list that here under statistic reported and say, they didn't tell me the rest. They should have told me the rest. And then the final project part of this paper is just writing a small paper about like, what did you find? What do you think that means? Like what happened in your study? And we could talk about this a little more when after you get this table thing going, but this is an example of how to work one of those tables. And if at the moment you're not really sure whether or not they have the important parts, try and guess, and then I'll give you feedback on whether or not you're getting that right. Because I know that we haven't covered all of these yet, but we can't really wait till the last week of the semester and then expect you to turn out this whole project. So I'm trying to get you working on it and thinking about it. So once we get to talking about these statistics, you'll be like, okay, I remember that from one of my articles, and I can give you feedback on whether or not you're doing the table appropriately. So it's more about completing it for the first two than it is to necessarily get every little box right. I'll give you some feedback on that, because then once you know that you've got the table right, this paper will be much easier to kind of type up. So what happened in your study? Are they reporting their statistics correctly? What are they leaving out if they're not? Are people even including effect sizes? This is really the results section here is the big component where we're going to compare statistical significance, which is p less than 0.05 stuff, to practical importance, which is about effect sizes. So at the end of the semester, you'll have kind of a paper that sort of summarizes some research articles in your field and thinking about how statistics is applied to the area you're interested in. So I move this assignment due date back to pretty much the end of this test block. So it's not due until the 24th of March now instead of February. But I would still tell you to get started on finding yourself 5 relevant articles on something you're interested in, and then maybe bring one to class one day and like sort of say, okay, I've tried this a little bit. Am I doing this right? And I'll be able to give you some help on getting started for this project.